Well, good morning, everyone. This is Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike, and I do bees. Welcome back to Southeast Louisiana. It is June 8th, and it is a beautiful morning at 68 degrees. But as the sun hits the top of that live oak, it won't last long. So I decided I'd shoot an opening real quick after loading up the car. As you can see, it is market day. We have been going to that market for many, many years. We go every Saturday we're in town and we're available, which is pretty much every Saturday. That's our main retail sales right there. So I decided, since it's so beautiful out this morning, the dew is still on the ground, it's cool, I figured I'd shoot a quick opening video because here in the next hour or so, I've got to go pop the lids on some colonies, and we're just going to take a look at where they're at, show you what I do. Because remember, this is not a how-to video. I do not do how-to videos. This is simply a vlog. That's what the channel was started for, and there's a whole backstory on that of why I started, but it has never been an instructional type of channel. It's just simply showing you my year each year, and all you guys have been watching me for a while. Y'all know that, because I don't do things the way normal people do it, and I can be all over the place, especially this year when I've had just pretty much Saturdays and a couple hours here and there during the week after work to work my bees, along with all my other chores. So I'm all over the place. So definitely not a how-to. All right, I'll get started in a little while. I'll turn y'all back on, and off we'll go. All right, folks, we're out here in the yard next door. What I did about 10 days ago was go through and see any colonies that didn't have a lot of action on them. I opened them up and saw if they had swarmed or not. And if I didn't see a lot of bees, they obviously had swarmed. And what happens in May, if they're swarming in May going into June, they'll stay numerous for a while, still loading honey in and a lot of bees, but they'll begin to drop off very quickly and until they can requeen. And if you leave a lot of boxes on them, well then small hive beetles and wax moths can get in there, they can't guard it. And next thing you know, you've lost a colony and all your honey. So I go through and I move any partially filled supers. Some full ones I'll leave until now. Now I'll go through, and if I see full ones and bees are just not on them and working them and not guarding them, I see any sign of a lot of beetles, I like to move those supers off to strong colonies until I can harvest. It would be great to harvest early this year, but you know, we got to wait until the queen slows down before I begin to break her all the way down to 2 boxes or singles, because what I don't want to do is push overcrowding swarms out the door. Usually in July, I'm safe for that. I can push them into 2 boxes, doesn't matter how many bees, and they're fine. They're not going to swarm. If anything, they'll abscond if they are weak. But I don't know. I think I'm a little too early for that. I'd love to do that now, but I don't know if it's going to work out. We're pretty much out of the tallow, which is our main flow. So it's pretty much done. But is it done enough for the queen to slow down? I don't know. Just don't know. This is a colony the brick is turned because I pulled supers off of it that were empty because they weren't going to fill them. And let's see how the bees act today as far as robbing and all that. But see how that popped? I don't hear any bees. Like a roar like I would normally get. There's bees. I'm not saying there's not. But usually they would be packed. You would hear it as soon as you opened it, just a whoom. And they're not. Just not a lot of bees up here. And only a few frames filled. Now I harvested off of this early spring, but this is one that I have to be very careful that they have enough numbers that we don't lose anything to wax moths. Yes, it's just not a lot of bees. There's honey in the center, but the boxes aren't full. I left them on, but these will probably need to come off. Because what we don't want is, we don't want any problems with pests. I didn't see any beetles when I pulled this off in any kind of number. This hive can be kind of spicy. All right, there's our top of our nest. So they got bees in the nest. There's bees guarding the honey to an extent. As you can see, there are bees in there, but you know, this isn't a strong colony. So I need to keep an eye on this, but I'm not ready to pull these yet. Let's see if they're capped. It's heavy now. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frames in it that are full. I run 9 frames. And really when they swarm, you just don't have the numbers to continue filling the boxes. You just don't have them. So let's pull a frame or 2, see what they look like. Yeah, just, it's drying it. They're already drying this stuff on the edges. Like a little bit of nectar here that's dry. They just ran out of numbers and they got what they need. They swarmed. I'm sure they swarmed. So they're probably requeening now. I don't want to dig in the brood chamber. That's empty, and that's half. This one's half, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 full ones. So this one wouldn't hurt to get it pulled off. Let's look at this next frame. Yeah, see? Full. This is a full frame. We can harvest that, and so are the ones in the middle. So I'm going to mark this one for an early harvest. It's just more work I can get out of the way. Allows them to requeen if they haven't already. And then we go from there. Let's look what's in this top box. This top box seems a little heavier, but enough. Again, not a lot of bees, so I'm probably going to take this week sometime. Same thing with this one. This is about how they all are, and that's a sure sign of swarming where they just can't finish the box out, whether there's a flow or not. I'm going to set that brick up, just like that, saying that I need to pull these boxes off. These can be reduced on down because they're not going to grow. They're going to have a new queen, provided she requeens. That's always a wild card. I'm not worried about these too much. These boxes during the afternoon are just covered with bees. These were combined, and they should be fine. We're going to go over there. I got the one on the left. I want to see if they requeen. The one on the right, I really don't care if it requeens. She should have been requeened early in the season. I didn't get around to it, so I just left her alone. She produced about 2 boxes of honey for me. And then I noticed last week the population was way down. So they're in the process of requeening. So we got several like that, and it's frustrating. That one not so much, because I don't think I could have prevented that one. She's got the propensity to swarm. That's why I wanted to requeen her, but I just didn't get around to it, folks. Another excuse of mine, but it's the truth. And the one in the middle produced honey, and I put boxes back on. All right, this one's, see, now this has got more bees up top. I've got an excluder in this one. How did I got this one even configured? Oh, I got a single with 2 supers, and then this was a combined, as you can tell by the newspaper. You got holes in your boxes like I do. I always want to give them a little smoke, because that's an entrance. My plan is to harvest this entire box once it's capped. That's another reason I like to wait till June to see if they'll cap it. In a lot of cases though, if it's not full, it doesn't get capped. It gets that haze across it where they dry it, but the cell didn't fill all the way up. So they leave it open, but they dry the honey, and you can take a refractometer and check it, and it's usually pretty dry. Then when I turn around and run fans over it, that dries it the rest of the way out. Had to do that last year when we had that terrible flow, because they just couldn't finish the boxes. But I look in here, there's just a lot of bees in here, and that's a good sign. I'm thinking the combine took. I never did go back and check them, but that was over a month ago, and I still got plenty of bees. You know, in the summertime, you get those swarms, and they deplete pretty quick. They'll stay for about 2 to 3 weeks, and then they drop fast. The reasoning on that, best I can understand it, is like a spring, you have swarms. Spring, it's natural for bees to swarm. It's just natural. There are varieties that have the propensity to swarm more. I like to weed those out. That was one of those over there. I didn't do it. It's just hard to control them. You can do everything you can for them, and they still just make cells. And a lot of those, I like to get rid of them. I don't want those drones in my area or anything. But the normal swarms happen, so we split them. We do our interventions, however we may all do that. And then we get to the flow. Well, then we get what's called those overcrowding swarms, congestions, backfilling, plugging the nest. And the problem with those is they plug that nest and they decide to swarm. I'm not in the boxes at that point. All I'm doing is seeing who's empty on top and stacking more boxes. Sometimes they get away, and they get away from me, like this year. Probably about 5 of them did, and it was frustrating. But so what happens is that happens around May. You don't even see them go. You know, they're gone. I'm not in my yard. I'm at work. And I don't know that they swarm because the numbers stay. I mean, you still have plenty of brood in there. You probably got 2 boxes of brood emerging still for the next 21 days, up to 21. But for the next 2 weeks, a lot of brood's emerging. A lot of bees are working. It stays nice and full. But then the brood stops emerging. They continue to backfill. The queen hasn't gotten mated, if she gets mated. And the numbers of bees are dying because they're foraging like crazy because the flow's still on, finishing up the flow. And so you look at the hive and you think, oh, it's normal. It's not normal. It's crashing quickly. And then all of a sudden you notice there's not many bees on the front. You open the top and there's hardly any bees in it. Well, they finally peeled off. And so that's what I did last week and moved supers. This week I'm just double checking to make sure I've got bees in some of them. Once I start stacking boxes, I don't go in the brood nests. I think people should probably go in the brood nest for a little while anyway, just to make sure everything's still on par. I don't, so that's why this is not a how-to. Oh yeah. Oh, that son of a gun is loaded, 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 and that box is loaded, loaded too. Ooh, I can smell that tallow. My goodness, I can smell the tallow, honey. Now this was a combine that had to accept a new queen, and it was a weak queen, or a weak colony when I put it on here. Weak being because it was a late colony. So, looks like they haven't really filled it all out. I mean, it's filled, but it's not all the way capped, meaning they haven't filled each individual cell as much, but all in the middle is capped. So 2 outside frames, that's normal. Plenty of bees, so this one's fine. We'll harvest this deep too, it is full. That's why I don't run deeps, folks. That is too much weight to be lifting up. I need my hive lifter. And with these homemade boxes, my hive lifter don't work. Don't grab the handles, so I'm purging them as I go. Gotta purge those ones with bad handles. Man, they got, whew, that's heavy. The one right next to this one, it's fine. It's loaded with bees. Let's take a quick walk over to these right here. I've already stripped the one over here that swarmed, and then the one on the far left swarmed as we were getting into the flow, and so it should have requeened. Y'all want to go ahead and check and see if there's a queen in it? It should have requeened. I'm afraid to look, but let's look. That one on the right, I don't really care about it. I really don't. The last time they swarmed, they were just plugged with pollen. I've really begun to believe that when they load this pollen in these frames and it's not being used and the thing gets pollen bound, I just think that's an inferior queen that is not producing fast enough for them to want to use the bee bread. The bees know what to bring in. So let's see if we got a queen in here, and we'll look at this one. I got plenty of colonies over there full of honey that I'm gonna pop the lids on, but let's look at this one for honey. Oh wow, this one might be getting robbed out. Look at this. No, they just found them a new entrance. No, they never had an entrance back there. What's going on here? Look, I really am not concerned with this colony. I know that sounds harsh, folks, but I'm not. She needed to be requeened anyway. I can use the equipment. It's starting to warm up now. Whew. Do we have a laying worker? I should say laying workers. When we see laying worker colonies, they're laying workers. There's more than one. Oh yeah, that's definitely, yeah, see how small they are? They should have been grown by now. That's concerning. This is a good queen too. It'd be nice if she requeened. She was a good queen, but I don't know, they got a little open area for a queen. But there should be brood in here by now, capped brood, I mean. And it's all pollen on this side. They're calm though, but like they're acting normal. As though that's all full of nectar. They're happy-go-lucky. They're not laying workers. They don't seem awful. They're leaving open spots for a queen to lay. Oh no, I just spotted milk brood. Well, look at there, a small patch of milk brood. Yeah, they're acting too normal, and they're not acting like laying workers. And I got single eggs. We actually do have a queen in here. Well, that's good news. Praise the Lord. So what she needs is open frames, and now that the flow has stopped, that's what I may do. I'm going to give her a frame to lay in. And we got a queen. Yeah, I'm seeing more single eggs in here too on this other side. She needs a little spot to put some eggs though. So what I'm going to do is give her a frame. There's not a huge influx of nectar, so it shouldn't be a problem. They're not going to backfill it very badly. Give her a chance to lay in it and maybe boost them back up. But at least she requeened. So tough to requeen this time of year. Dragonflies, the birds have honed in on them. There's not a lot of drones being produced, so the concentration areas are, the congregation areas are a little bit slack. You don't have as many quality out there, seems like, because you get some inferior queens off of some of these summer requeenings. And all right, I'm back with an empty frame. Man, I had to dig through some frames. I am so over frames that are full of pollen. I've soaked them. I've done all the different methods, soak them, hose them back out, all that stuff. I've scraped them, I'm over loaded pollen frames. I'm to the point now, if they're loaded with pollen, I'm popping that foundation out, saving the frame, and it's over. It's going in the trash. The time required to try and clean those things up, it's just not worth it. Yeah, so this one here, check for her. cheating on there that I can see. That one off. We'll give them the honey frame back on the edge. I'll slide this over, give them their nectar back. Slide this over and stick a open frame in here. They shouldn't overload it with nectar at this point. I look at that activity. I look at activity on the front, and I see the board with some brown nastiness. I see some dead bees. I think this colony swarmed out to death and is being robbed out, because what I see down here, all that mess, you'll see that brown nasty comb. This hive is dead. It's hard to see, but there's the sun caught it right there. This is a colony that's dead. See, so that's why I'm glad I got supers off of it. This thing, I was gonna requeen it this year. So, you know, with my queen situation, we didn't do good on those. I made a second batch, but that second run went to colonies I knew I needed to get fixed after splits and nukes and things like that that were promised. So I couldn't, I just put this on the back burner. It was making honey, they were growing, I left them alone. I knew she had, look, I can even look, well, the notes are about washed off. Look, I put bad pattern, she's in the super, watch her, and I put requeen right there. Don't split it. Then I ended up supering it. This was on the 11th, and a week later, I went ahead and supered it because I just didn't get to it. And I'm like, well, they need spaces still. Then I went back on a 328 bad pattern. And I had some old cells in here. They were incomplete. I saw the queen. I said, watch for swarm. But anyway, it got to swarming. I never did get it fixed. It wasn't a huge priority, but the swarming, you know, now there's a colony out there somewhere with this one in there. And it has swarmed before. Last year, I kept an eye on it, and it seemed okay. This year, it came out of winter, and she was just inferior. They're loading pollen in, and when you load all that pollen in and they're not using it, that means the queen's not putting enough brood in. The workers are doing their part. The queen's not doing her part, and you can see I just didn't get to it. No excuse, guys. No excuse. It's just I didn't have time, and that's not a good excuse, but it's the excuse I'm going to stick by. So, hey, you do what you can do with the time you got allotted to you. I'll save those frames that are salvageable. The pollen frames, I'm done with pollen frames. I'm going to start throwing that foundation away and just replacing it. It's worth the money as far as how much time I have to put in trying to get that silly pollen out of there. And I've tried to freeze them and put them, you know, freeze them fresh out of a colony and then use them later, and the bees don't do anything with them. They just stay like that. They don't, freeze them doesn't seem to do anything. It just doesn't work. Let's see what's in this colony. See, that's what I like to hear when I pop it. I like to hear bees, meaning they're up top. Now, they'll be up top working the emptier frames, and they'll leave the ones that are capped alone a lot of times. But yeah, see, that's what I like to open the super and see that. And that's why, of course, this one's stacked tall. And if you look in here, we got bees working all the frames. So these are the colonies that, like, I took this box, came off of this colony, because this box was empty, and they filled it in the last, let's see, I did that 10 days ago. So they filled it. So bad colony, bad queen, good colony, good queen. I grew this one up from a single this year. Made it a double. Got 3 supers on it full. Plenty of bees in it. You know, that's how we like them to look. The swarming situation could probably be solved with more supers and being on top of it, but it didn't happen this year. So the robbing's picking up over here on this colony, so that means the flow has slowed down. See them all now? So let's go over and take a look next door. I got a couple more over there I want to look at that, you know, didn't have a ton of bees on the front. And I want to make sure that they haven't swarmed and make sure there's nothing over there that we need to harvest early to get the supers off, or even move them. Like I could take one of those supers off and actually move it over here. Matter of fact, you know what? I might just do that. I might just take a super off of there and move it over. Let's do that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a fume board. Yeah, I'm gonna go get a fume board. I'll be right back. Okay, we got them fumed out, I think. I've had it on for a little bit, had the camera turned off. I'm not worried about getting them all out, just the majority of them. Never hurts to leave them some bees because they're trying to requeen. And that's something I see. If I'm pretty sure they swarm, their population's down, but they still got a lot of bees, I'm pretty confident normally that they've either requeened or they're doing good with it. If they just go in decline really quick and crash, they never requeened. And that's depressing sometimes, but you know, I'm not saying I would have prevented every swarm, but normally you prevent as many as you can, and you're always going to have those few that, yeah, they do end up swarming. Whew, it's got a little bit of honey to it. Nothing you can do sometimes. You read the hive, you see the empty boxes, you super them just like you would everybody else, same time frame, everything, timing seems to be right, but don't always work out. And I've seen that. I watched Bob Benny's video one time where he said they just didn't get back to a yard in time. They lost like 6 or 7 swarms off of a yard that had like 20 or 30 hives in it. So it happens to the best of them. Yeah, this queen, she's a this year's marked queen. And so there's a difference in a fresh queen. So I see bees in this. So I think, okay, yeah, I mean, I see the bees. They're populated pretty well, not awful, but not great. So that tells me, and they're quiet, they're doing what they're supposed to do, it tells me probably requeened okay. Or in the process of it, and they're still happy. Nothing has declined too bad yet. But if they don't requeen, like I said, after that emergence of brood starts waning, before that brood break, even with a brood break, you see them drop, but you see them come right back within 2 weeks. When that last emergence starts coming out and there's no great activity, they just didn't requeen. So I'll keep my eye on this one. We'll see what it does. The numbers are looking okay to guard it, so if I can let this hold out, then I'm gonna let it hold out until I harvest everything. But we gotta watch the fall off on bees. Let's see what this nuke did. This is that nuke I put a super on. Look at that. They filled a complete super. They filled it and capped it. Now, this was put on with foundation on a 9-frame setting. People say you can't do foundation in 9-frame boxes, that you have to start with 10, then do 9. When I first started doing 9, the old fella that showed me said, I just put them in there like that, and I did. And some were cattywampus and others weren't. But I'm gonna tell you, if you got a strong colony and a good flow, I've had good success with letting them make foundation into comb, drawing it out in a 9-frame box. I'm not saying how to, remember that. And you can see like this one, for example, it is fatter on one side, so this one's gonna be skinnier, but they can draw this out if you've got a good, strong colony and a good, consistent flow. This colony drew out foundation in a 9-frame configuration, because that's all I had. The box had spacers in it. It was the only super I had. You see these metal spacers? Not all mine do. I use a manual spacer, but these have them. And I said, well, shoot, I'm just going to put it on. They need space. See what happens. That's what happened. That person should have got that nuke. They backed out, or they couldn't schedule it, and they didn't want to bend their schedule much. And so I guess if I look at the sales and how much honey that is, I made the same amount, maybe a little bit more on that particular. You know, that's not 9 frames drawn flat out fat comb, but that's going to yield 2 gallons at 24 pounds. So I'll make about the same, a little bit more on honey on that than I did if I sold it. So either way, came out in the wash for me. I'm grateful. See, I can hear them. That's what I like to hear. It doesn't have as many as I'd like, but it's full. There's bees in there, plenty of bees in there, and it's full of honey. This is heavy. Oh, this is full. Let's pull it off and see. How's that one look? I'm not looking. Oh my gosh. I got this wireless mic. I hope that's not too much grunting. Full. That's a 10 frame. of new frames, full, like it. Let's look at the under super. Now this one won't be as heavy. There's a stark difference between 9 frame and 10 frame boxes in weight. Yeah, that's full too. That was been put back on since we extracted in May, and they filled it. So there's plenty of bees guarding the honey. We're good on this one. They're good, I'm not. I gotta pick this up. Here we go. I'm new to the wireless mic. Oh my gosh, I'm getting old. Golly. Full of honey, full of honey. If I've got a green dot, that means it was a new queen. If it's 1 green dot on the box, she's unmarked. If there's 2, I've got her marked. That's full of honey. It's a double deep, so we'll only get 1 box off of this. This tall one is up to my chin. So full of honey. Oh my gosh. Full of honey, look at this. Just full of honey. Now I hope the next one is full. Do I look in the next one? I want to look in the next one. I'll show you why. The reason I want to look in this next one, it's a 10 frame shallow box, and it is all comb honey. The sun's not helping us here, folks. Let me see, but you can see right here, it's all drawn. So I look down in there. I'm not going to pull any up. I don't want to disturb this at all. I like to pull this box whole. All I'm going to do is leave it alone, but I see it's at least capped on all the tops. I'm not even going to tip it up because I don't want to tear comb apart. I'm going to put these other ones back, but that's good to know because this is a comb honey box. I always say it never hurts to run a shallow box of comb honey. If it works out, great. If it don't, you just crush and strain it. If it does work out, this box yields at least $250 more than a regular box of honey, if not more, depending on your location. But I always like to run a comb honey box. Man, oh man, I'm gonna need help harvesting. I gotta get my hive lifter out. If I can't get anybody over here, y'all gonna get to see the hive lifter in action, because oh man, that's heavy. Then we gotta go up even higher. Here we go. They're making me work for it, folks. Ouch, there's one in my hand, of course. I squeeze it, get a nice sting to the palm. Oh, man. Goodness gracious. I don't even know if my hive lifter will reach that high. I'm gonna have to bring it down. Whew. Seems like some bees up in there. Yeah, I got a lot of bees up here. Oh yeah, that's ready to go. It's all capped up. So I think what we'll do is get ready to pull. Some of this is gonna get pulled. I might go through and do an early harvest of just capped stuff. We can reduce these colonies now. I mean, they should be fine. That's the other one I was a little concerned with. Oh yeah, that's full of bees. So there we are, folks. This is where we stand. There might be a couple supers on here that aren't all the way full because I moved them from other colonies to give these bees space. These were all combines and different things, so they're just full of honey. Even that deep, it's all just full of honey. This is a swarm I caught in one of my traps. I did not do a video on the traps. I caught another tiny, tiny swarm. I don't even know if this thing's alive. It was little. They're doing all right. I had to do a little bit of cutout action, of course, because I left them out there too long. But they seem settled in, and they're calm. Let me put them back together. They're like, why are you doing that? Once we get into the middle of May and I'm supered up, all I do is check for empty space. And that's why, again, it's not a how-to, because maybe you need to check down in the bottoms a little bit more. I don't. I feel confident in the colonies where I do have good queens, and I have good, you can tell a colony's good. You can tell they're acting right. They make that turn, they're putting honey in. They're not concerned with swarming unless you let them plug up. And if all I'm doing is adding space, I'd say 8 out of 10 don't swarm. Those other 2, they swarm. So that's what we're kind of checking today. That's all I'm doing. Hate that it was such a roundabout, run around video, really no organization whatsoever. In your mind, maybe, but in mine, I kind of knew what I was looking for because, again, I was in these hives 10 days ago and moved supers off of other ones. Now I'm checking the ones that I have marked and I knew might be weak. just to make sure to see if they took that dip. And it looks like a couple of them did. So I either got to get supers off or move them. We moved one super. Come July, I like to have them all back down into what they are going to go into winter with. Because the queen slows down, the nectar's not piling in, they're not plugging their nest anyway. So all that being done, I know it's been a crazy run around just doing a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, but that's really all I'm doing this time of year. Wanted to show you because we hadn't really been looking at the bees and to see what's going on with my colonies. So just kind of wanted to show you what we have happening, what's going on. We got lots of honey to pull off. We got a lot of hives to go through after we pull it off and check viability. And of course, then we'll have to get some sort of treatment regime in place after the honey comes off. So I got some other things I'm gonna go do now for the rest of the day before it gets too hot. Gotta do some yard work. Always gotta keep on top of the gardenias this time of year. Gotta get those pruned. Always prune them into May, into June, so that you let them set their buds for next year. All right, guys, well, I'm gonna go ahead and let y'all go. Hope you enjoyed this little video. I know it's kind of just hit and miss running around, but it's what I'm doing right now. And again, this is a vlog. It's what I do, showing you my season here and there and different things that I do in my bees. It's Barry's Best Honey. I'm Mike and I do bees. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week and may God bless you. We'll see y'all later.